As the conflict between two worlds raged on, the orc hosts of Mordor continued advancing into the realms of men. Their foot soldiers surged forward in a brutal tide, eager to crush whatever stood in their path. But ahead of them, the men of the Western human realm under the banner of the Kingdom of Portugal were already in formation. Steadfast ranks braced behind their defensive lines, fully prepared to meet the oncoming assault. The Portuguese tower initiated the engagement, firing individual flaming arrows to chip away the advancing orc column. However, the orcs of Mordor showed no sign of slowing. With unwavering momentum, they advanced under a single doctrine: educate mankind and leave no trace of their world behind. Portuguese crossbowmen maintained constant fire, sending bolt after bolt toward the orcs of Mordor as they breached the village outskirts. The defenders knew they had only moments left before the brutal melee reached their lines. At the same time, the defenders maintained their bold fire, intercepting the incoming orcs, while another group pushed in from the village's far side. The growing pressure on both fronts signaled an inevitable shift. The line would soon transition from ranged engagement into melee. As the orcs closed the distance, the troops positioned behind the crossbowmen finally stepped forward to join the fight. They intercepted the invaders head-on, forming a solid front line to protect the crossbowmen as the engagement shifted into brutal melee combat. While the main fight drew everyone's attention, the situation on the opposite flank changed in an instant. A group of Mordor's orcs managed to break in from a side path, crashing directly into the Portuguese reserves. What was meant to be a backup force was suddenly pulled into a full melee. The reserve force, positioned as a secondary line to support the front line, was forced into immediate combat. Following the unanticipated orc incursion, without the time to establish a solid defense, the unit quickly became overwhelmed. Struggling to contain the sudden pressure on their sector of the village, the reserve contingent struggled to hold after the unexpected orc strike. However, one reserve unit, having just defeated an enemy detachment, moved to reinforce the position and helped re-establish control of the front. Meanwhile, at the very center of the clash, Alfred strode into the heart of the battle, his presence cutting through the clash and smoke. With a roar, he drove his orcs onward, their momentum threatening to overwhelm the human defenders. At the rear, the reserve forces of the Western Empire were overwhelmed, encircled by orcs and pushed to the brink. Desperate shouts filled the air as their formation shattered under the pressure. In the chaos, the entire reserve line collapsed, swallowed by the advancing horde. Now nothing stood between the orcs and the heart of the village. The defenders at the front would soon face the full weight of the Mordor assault. In the heart of the village, the orcs surged through the streets, and the defenders met them with everything they had. From the village center came fresh reinforcements, armored men advancing with determined steps. They formed up without hesitation before plunging into the melee, their arrival breathing life back into the collapsing line. The sudden reinforcement lifted the defenders' spirits, driving the orcs back through the crowded village streets. The clash grew fiercer as blades clashed violently and echoes of battle filled the narrow streets. Meanwhile, the men at arms braced themselves as another wave of orcs surged in. Ahead of them, the crossbowmen stepped forward to intercept the incoming assault. They tightened their formation, preparing for the clash. The defenders fired bolts and spears at the orcs advancing from the direction of the collapsing reserve force. The barrage struck cleanly, disrupting the enemy's momentum. Several orc ranks buckled under the pressure. Within moments, the advancing line collapsed and began to pull back. Meanwhile, another reinforcement appears, a formation of heavily armored troops moving out from the village capital. They advanced steadily at first, then build into a powerful forward surge. Their presence adds mass and pressure to the push toward the center. With their weight behind the line, the central front regains strength. The heavy armored reinforcements crash into the weakened Mordor orc line, halting their advance instantly. Shields lock, halberds drive forward, and the orc formation begins to collapse under the disciplined push. Moments later, their ranks lose cohesion. Morale breaks, and the counterattack finally takes shape as a sword struck down the Mordor general. The Mordor Orc forces have fully collapsed, marking the complete breakdown of their assault. Human troops hold their line, cheering as the remnants of the enemy scatter from the field. Once again, humanity secures a decisive victory in the enduring clash between two worlds. The village stands firm, defended under the banner of the Kingdom of Portugal. What began as a desperate defense ends in a triumph for the men of the West. The soldiers maintain formation as officers take count of the surviving units. Cheers and shouts echo through the village streets, rising over the fading roar of battle. For now, the ground belongs entirely to the defenders.